But that is when it like stuck. And I was like, huh, son of a bitch. Why didn't you guys tell me that in the first 2 classes? But I look back at my notes for those 2 other classes, and it's there. But I, as a student, right, didn't have the capacity or wasn't ready to hear it and digest it at the same time. Because I was already overloaded with all the other shit that was going on.
Well, I was fixing to say good morning to all my listeners out there, but we do release this at 6 a.m. on Thursdays. So good morning if you're tuning in the morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, or you could never sleep like some people around Symposium do. But we're back. We're here. We're sitting down this morning and talking to Jon from Kinetic Consulting. Once again at Shooter Symposium this morning, we're joined by Ike. And Ian has graced us finally.
Hello.
Every time we've recorded an episode so far, Ian's been training.
Yeah, out there hustling.
Right, on a range, blasting away. Have you had a good time so far?
Absolutely. We were out till 1 last night with John, the whole warehouse crew, plus some people from the range were out there clapping some steel. So it was a great night.
It was fun.
And you shot out to...
Yeah, 600.
600 with Ridgeline yesterday. We've got to get with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a trip to New Hampshire is definitely in our future.
Yeah, definitely.
Ooh,
definitely.
let me know, because I'm planning one too.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
And I want to do there's a rally school right next to them.
Oh, snap.
And do that during the week right after a class.
Yes.
Oh, well, let's just add that to the list.
I don't want to do that.
We're just going
Whatever. F him. We'll go. No, I'm down. I've been trying to plan something there just to go as a student and have fun, and then go to that little rally school. I think it's going to be a blasty blast.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
So awesome. We're just marking off a whole week, and we're just taking a week trip.
But let them know.
Team building exercises.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, it's team building. It's team building. That's what we'll write it off as team building and marketing.
Write-off.
Yeah, it's a.
Do you even know what a write-off is?
The government. It's a write-off. You don't have to pay for it. The government pays for it. That's not no.
That's how that works.
That's not how. That's why we don't have accountants.
So, some accountant out there is like, oh my God, they're retarded.
Like, not talking about anybody that we've interviewed here or anything, but somebody talking about how they're going to expense a minigun.
Do you,
Laughs
boo-boo?
an audit.
That's an audit. It's a write-off.
Yeah.
Jon, for our viewers and listeners out there, give us you could make it a 45-minute backstory, or you can make it a 10-minute backstory, or whatever. But a lot of our listeners and a lot of viewers might not know who you are and your background. I've talked to you a couple times out here at Symposium before, and we follow you pretty closely on the gram and other social media. But give our listeners the backstory.
Cool. Pretty easy. Started out, I grew up in South Florida. I started as an EMT down there, and after the first year doing that, after high school, I was like, this is boring. Like, I'm going to go for like what I've always wanted to do as a kid, which was join the military and go blow things up. So I found I went through and kind of did some research, figured out what I wanted to do in the Army. My ASVAB score was high enough that I could just choose whatever, and like that made it really easy. So chose the coolest job that I could think of and found, and went into the Army with a Ranger contract. I spent 5 years there. I had a blast. Super stupid moments and really annoying stuff that you have to do, just random, Army shenanigans. But there were really cool moments, really cool people. I do miss some of my friends and stuff, so it's cool. And then after the Army, I got into the private security side of things, and doing like executive protection and like really close protection for celebrities and government officials and stuff like that, like local government. And I had to move out to LA to do that. And if you don't like doing that, don't do that. It's a terrible job. So I got suckered into it, and kind of like the magic of like, oh man, I'll get paid really good just to hang out with like rich people. That's fucking fine. No, you're a rich person's bitch, and you go do stupid bitch work, and then you're at their beck and call at any time of the day. It's really, really terrible. So I had no fulfillment with that. Now, throughout all that time from the military into the private sector I was teaching for Frank Proctor from Way of the Gun at the time. Now it's Frank Proctor Shooting. And Frank is one of my closest friends. I love that dude. the best way to describe him is he is an Alabama surfer. Right, so he's like, all right, groovy man, like
just let it do.
Yeah, let it do. And he's just a phenomenal dude, phenomenal shooter. If you haven't trained with him, please do. But Frank introduced me into competitive shooting at the time while I was in the Army, and opened my eyes to like the way that you can blend the worlds of tactical shooters and competitors, and really make this performance-based shooting that you can do work for you in even a setting that you wouldn't think so, because it's all about just being more efficient and utilizing the space you have to work, right? So if you can do that, you could do that in a tactical setting pretty easily. Taught for Frank for a while. I still do every once in a while when he needs some help. But after I left that job in California, came out to Florida again, or went back home to Florida, and continued working in the security industry in various capacities, like testing security systems and like essentially breaking into like small airports and stuff like that. It was super fun. So just testing their security to an extent. It was a lot of fun actually, but at the same time, it wasn't what I wanted to do. And teaching is still a passion. And I was teaching for Aaron at that time, right? So started teaching for Frank and Aaron Cowan from Sage Dynamics. And so then I got approached by a local agency, a big agency by me, to do a night vision course for them. And they were like, hey, we just need to know how to use it. We got all this stuff. We've had it for years and we don't know how to fucking use it. And I was like, well, that's literally what I did. And I teach all the time. I could probably teach you a night vision class, right? So went ahead through a night vision program with them, and they loved it. But to do that, I had to have my own LLC for them to pay me. So I went ahead and made a business, and I only taught for law enforcement, military, and stuff like that for a little bit through my own business until I opened it up to the public, 7 years ago. And then it just obviously grew from there because my pool of clientele could grow immensely. So did that, and I was teaching full-time. I was working full-time for a security firm doing all that testing and stuff like that. And then I also was going to school full-time for my bachelor's degree in business. So I was a busy man. And then finally finished school, left that job, and literally took teaching to a whole nother level for me. And it's to the point where I'm home like 3 days a week sometimes, and I'm flying in, flying out. But it's been a blast, and I really enjoy it. With that, I also do a lot of consulting for agencies to help them fix their programs. So if they have like a rifle program that's from the 80s and they need like, wait a minute, this is for a shotgun, and they need some help kind of cleaning it up or fixing it or testing it, I go ahead and I'll augment a class and then help them write the curriculum to help them make it better. And then I also do a lot of testing and evaluation for different companies for products and product development, and really just try to make things better, right? Like try to see like where they could take what they're trying to do and increase it or test it to the point that it's not viable, where there's a couple companies that won't talk to me anymore because they were like, he was too mean to us. Like, I just told you the truth, man. It sucked. And you guys could do it better with blah, blah. But they may not be willing to because they've already paid for like a mold or, something like that. So it's sometimes a little rough dealing with peeps, but it's like there are companies out there that are like, oh, cool, tell us more. All right, we'll change this. All right, what do you think now? Oh, this sucks a little bit. Okay, and they just make another one. And they continuously make more until they have the right product before they put it out to the market. And I like working with companies like that because they care. They care enough to like fix the shit versus like, well, we already, put too much money into it. And it's like, yeah, money's a thing, but like time is also a thing. And then your reputation is even bigger when it comes to like this world. Because, I mean, look at like Beretta and Taurus and like Keltec. They got cool ideas with some of them, but their execution on some of the products just terrible. So their reputation is like, don't buy a Keltec, bro, unless you just want like a toy, right? Like, I don't know. There's probably somebody out there that carries a Keltec. I'm sorry.
Their little foldy thingy is pretty cool. Their little folder 22 mag. Isn't it a 22 mag? The one that like
the new one?
No,
they make a 9.
They make a 9 folder rifle carbine.
They make a 223
and their 22 mag pistols kind of cool, but it's not
they make
something
a folding fucking Gustav, but it doesn't work.
It's not going. I'm not going to carry it. Like it might have it to
It's a toy.
do some fun stuff with, but it is a toy.
That's exactly it. So, so unfortunately, though, but they're not willing to make something that's reliable enough to not be a toy, right, and be looked at seriously. Where some of those products, if they were like super reliable, that'd be cool, right? And people could use it, like SROs in schools or dudes on PSD details, because they have like really cool little products. But it's all good. But yeah, man, that's essentially what I do, and I travel around all over the country teaching now, and I'm also like I'm starting to branch out more internationally, teach some different soft units outside of the U.S. and really start to get a handle on seeing how we can improve people in general, like as shooters and for some of them as tacticians. So it's kind of cool. I'm having a lot of fun doing it.
And it looks from following you on social media, and I if this was not you teaching the class, then I can edit this out later. But didn't you do like a Sims class in an airport recently or something like that? Did you do?
Not in an airport. It was in a humongous place, but it wasn't an airport.
Okay.
So it was actually Royal Caribbean has a building in Oregon that they only use half of it because they laid off half their employees. So my buddy who like teaches their security dudes was like, yeah, I have access to this like 165,000 square foot facility. I was like, that sounds like too much for this, 10 or 15 man class or whatever we're going to get. And he was like, I mean, we could just use portions of it. And I actually was able to utilize like small little smidge areas and groups of students could work on different things independently, but at the same time and in different parts of the structure because it was so big. So it was really cool. A lot of reps for dudes. And yeah, it was just a big, ginormous, like I call it like a headquarters building for like Royal Caribbean.
Wow.
And so what did that class cover? What were you?
It was a night vision CQB class. So it was all building tactics indoors with no lights. And we take the baby steps because I have to get everybody on the same page at first.
Yeah.
So it's a 3-day class now where you do a day fully with lights on, and we kind of like figure out what everybody's doing. And we go through like how we're going to operate through the class, and then from there it's like, all right, we're going to start shutting off the lights, and we work problems. And I try to bring the complexity in because I teach in a method called skill stacking, where we start with little things, and then we take that little thing, we move it over, and we start adding to it. We move it over, and we add to that, and it continuously adds to itself. So I do the same thing in building tactics course, where like start off with this 2-3 room problem that's relatively simple, really simple for somebody that's done this stuff before, and then from there it just starts adding complexity with the different kind of intersections you're going to deal with and opposing doors and just getting more complex as you go. That way that at the end of it, every day their brains are fried, because it's all it is problem solving. You may shoot like, I don't know, 10 rounds in the entire class in a day, but your brain was just exhausted with how much problem solving was having to be done. So for me personally, that's one of the magic to that is like people don't realize how little you'll actually shoot, but how much your brain is going to be working. So it's a cool class. I enjoy shooting that one and teaching it and actually taking classes like that because I'm an avid student, so it's nonstop for me. I'm sure. I mean, Ike and I have been in classes multiple times together. So, yesterday before I taught their class, I was in a class.
What'd you take yesterday?
I took Carrie's little med class that he was going on.
Awesome.
It's good stuff, though. It's always good to refresh on that. And if you haven't taken a med course, you're a big piece of shit, and you got to like fix that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I know I saw. It's a good thing we didn't see that course before they actually had that course, because that would have been one of them. Yeah. Like, hey, dude, we got to go.
We're going to shut down the warehouse.
We're shutting down the warehouse. Everybody's going.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to need to buy night vision too.
Yeah. Everybody needs night vision too.
Yeah. I would say it's one of the things I've had. I had a buddy who owns a Chick-fil-A. He hired me just to do a med class for everybody at his store.
Oh, nice.
And he paid them to come in on a Sunday, which is like blasphemy.
Oh my god!
Right, but
we might know that guy too.
Not on the Lord's day.
Yeah, but he was like he's gonna pay them to come in, and then pay me to teach them how to like save their own lives.
That's fantastic.
That's what we did just recently with Gary's class.
Yeah.
Yeah, we filled out carries. The entire warehouse crew came for.
Heck yeah.
And a couple people from the
Yeah,
range,
a couple people from the range too. I actually have a question about your classes. So,
Yeah.
Do you teach any? Can like an average Joe jump into a CQB class, like a night vision CQB class, or is that only for law enforcement and mil?
So anything that's only for military or law enforcement is either annotated.
Okay.
Right? Like, hey, it's LE mil. And that's not because like it's secret, bro. It's because we're using a facility that I'm not allowed to have civilians there because their facility owners don't allow it, right? And then anything that is like closed courses like that, I don't post them on my website in the first place. So like I have a 5-day course coming up in a couple weeks for an agency, and they're like, obviously I'm not going to put that on the internet, like, because nobody can sign up for it anyways.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense to put it on my schedule for them. But anything on my website, for the most part, unless it's annotated as LE Mil, is an open enrollment class.
Interesting.
Yeah, just something to be aware of, right? And for everybody listening and watching is like if you come to one of those classes, don't expect to like learn the fundamentals of using your rifle. Like, that's not what that class is about.
Yeah.
And if you're not there yet, that's okay. Like, all of us have been there where we're like, how do you use the safety? You know, like, all of us have been there. It's okay to be at that level. Just grow, right? Grow. Don't just fucking skip steps and try to like, you know, jump up the staircase a little bit too far and then end up skinning your fucking shins, right? Like take the time to go up the steps nice and easy and learn how to like actually walk before you get there. And I get every once in a while, there's one or two guys that are like, this is above my head. And it's okay. It's totally okay to be there and understand where you're at. But just realize like most people overestimate their abilities by far. Like, all of us watch way too many movies where we're like, I can do that Hondo roll off that 2-story building and then fucking shoot that guy in the face. Definitely could do that. No, we can't do that. Like, I don't want to jump off a 2-story building at all. So I'm not going to try and do it into a pool. Fuck no, right? But
Ian's having a hard time getting up and getting water this morning.
Yeah.
He's tired.
I'm tired, Grandpa.
I worked them pretty hard last night.
No,
they didn't get a break.
No, I mean, that was 8 hours of like hustling.
Training.
Yeah. I'm
Like, it should
glad
be.
I stuffed all of my mags before class. I had like 300 something rounds loaded before class.
That's the
I
way
was
to
just
do it.
like grabbing mags and here we go. Get a bottle of water.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool though that you there's not a lot of people that teach like open enrollment CQB classes.
Yeah.
Like that's hard.
Well, I think part of the reason potentially is that they don't want to have students that don't know what they're doing and bring them in, and then they're holding up the class or
Right.
something like that.
Yeah.
But I cherish the challenge to try and make some dude that has no idea what he's doing into a dude that knows like pretty much what he's doing, and then now he just needs to work on it, right? Like I love those kind of challenges because that's exciting as a teacher. It's like, let me see how many light bulbs I can get going. You know what I mean? Like, I'm over there like freaking Edison, like, oh yeah, like,
Yeah.
what can I do? You know, and then it's also a challenge in like the way that you speak to people, right? And giving them information. How will they digest this information, and how can I project it to them to make them go ahead and be like, oh, that makes sense, right? Like, if I'm talking to like somebody that, you know, skis, right? And I'm talking about like their footwork, or what really just the balance work that they're doing, right? If I can equate that to the way that I'm talking about pieing and how they have to lean, it's like the skier will understand what I mean if I put it into terms that they understand based off of skiing, right? The same thing if I'm talking to a boxer, like, and I'm talking about anything, well, if I put it into more boxing terms or equate it to something that's similar, it's easier for us to understand. And that's what us as humans do, right? Think about anybody that's ever learned a second language. They translate to their native language to understand what they go back to what's familiar. So we do that with everything, right? Any car that you ever drove, your body is trying to equate it to the one that you're used to, right? And I mean, that's why you know how to drive every car no matter what. You just have to like feel it out for a second. You know what I mean? So it's kind of cool. It's just a familiarization thing. So if I understand what you do right? Like, because at the beginning of the class, I kind of ask everybody what they do for a living, because like if they've been doing that for a while, I can start to, if I understand that industry enough, I can go ahead and start equating things to a similar aspect to it. So I don't like doing just like, you know, a whole class with military jargon and just blah, 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 you know, and doing an acronym fucking soup, and then 90% of them are like, what the fuck's he talking about?
Yeah.
Right? Like it's easier to give it in plain speak and actually like talk to humans like they need to be spoken to, and then go ahead and help them out with understanding things by using that familiarization.
Yeah. All your doodles.
Yeah, and drawings, man. So a lot of people don't realize, like, the reason I draw a lot on the targets and I doodle and show you guys things like that is because some people are visual learners, right? Like they use that as that's their main way of learning.
Yeah.
Some people are auditory learners, so I could just explain it to you. And then some people have to do it, right? So if I show you, I tell you, and then I demonstrate it and let you try it, you're literally learning with all three of them, and I conquer teaching every single person, no matter what flavor they are. So it works out really well for teaching, and for me, I've had really good success with getting a lot of different people on the same page by using that method. And all I have to do is just like figure out how to like explain the information, but in a drawing, right? Or quick Sharpie doodle on a target.
Oh yeah.
If you go out to range 8 this morning, there's probably 3 or 4 targets that have doodles all over the targets.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever seen a picture of me teaching, like, and the target next to me, and you're like,
I'm gonna
what
go
the fuck
grab it.
does all that mean? Yeah.
It looks grab one and sell it on Instagram.
You should have. We could sell that. You could probably do it.
Put it up
But
in the warehouse.
The problem is nobody will know what it means unless they've been to class. Because it
modern
looks,
art.
yeah, it literally looks like a Picasso, and like there's letters and numbers and plus signs and like graphs, and you're like, what is he trying to dismay?
Is this the meaning of life?
Yeah,
But-
you weren't there for the lecture.
But on that note, like you said, Ian, an open enrollment, and like you were explaining, you know, we've all been to classes where even if it's Pistol 1, that there might be a dude that's not at Pistol 1.
Yeah.
There's a dude that needs to go back and set in a 8-hour NRA range safety
no,
class.
they don't. No.
Like,
They just need some one-on-one attention, really.
But
Don't
like,
send them to the NRA.
Oh God.
I've seen some people in a class that like basic anything would have been better than in
that class.
than where they were. They didn't even fire a round at citizens defense class. Remember, the guy went up and got his gun out of his bag on his own.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like,
Whoops.
did the safety brief, and John's like, you know, don't keep your guns in the bag until I tell you to get them out. Made it very clear. I said it like multiple times. Then we're all down there at the line. The guy is back there. He's loading his mag and shit. We're all like,
In front of him.
yeah.
Down range.
We're all down range. He's back there loading his gun and stuff, and then he comes back, and John's like, "Bro, what the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah.
Like, we're all down here, and you're fucking with your gun right there. After I specifically made it very
Not
clear.
to. A real quick way to identify who's going to be able to follow instructions in the class.
Yeah, like he was on the special side of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But going into that, I can see, you know, having those challenges where if you are teaching a open enrollment CQB class and a dude's having trouble, you know, not pointing his gun at other people,
At his teammates, yeah.
right? Like, or safety, or
wait,
And
all
like with
that
those
is-
classes, like you have to know how to shoot, but shooting's a very small portion of it. Like
Very
very minor.
very.
You have to be able to do like the fundamentals and like not have to think about it, but because you need that processing power to process.
Yeah, because if
everything
you're
else.
having a hard time
Yeah.
walking and chewing bubble gum,
Yeah.
Well,
might
so
just need to sit down.
the cool part though, right? Like a lot of people see that as like a scary part of doing it, right? And they're like, oh man, I hope I don't get any problem children. But it's like, no, I kind of, not that I want them, but it's like if I get them, I'm going to use it as an opportunity to like hone a little bit more of my teaching skills. All right, like, okay, how can I get across to this dude that his head is obviously like 3 inches thick, right? Like, how do I get in there? Like, what kind of drill bit do I need to get in that bitch, right? Like, and like figure out how to like talk to him and get into his brain and like get him understanding what I'm talking about, right? Like, understand where his little frontal lobe is fucking working, and if I can do that, which you know, Joker, right? Right. So Joker, he comes to the stage classes quite often. He's been out here a couple times, and sorry, Joker, if you're watching this, bud, but like he goes a little overboard sometimes, right? Like he gets excited and he goes way too far into the weeds of like his brain brings up a scenario that's not a scenario. Well, like when he did a citizens response to active shooter that we have for Sage Dynamics, like he went way overboard. Like he had 3 guns on him, a trench coat. I was like, no. That's not how you walk around in your daily life. Like that's not how this works. And he's like, come on. I'm like, no. So it was cool though, because like some people see that as like, oh my God, he's doing it again or whatever. But for me, I was like, okay, how do I get through to him and explain to him like, Joker, you just got to dial back the fantasy a little bit and dial up the realism. Like, think about how you go to the gas station every day or something, or you go to the grocery store, you go buy some groceries. Like, what would you do, or how would you dress with that? It's like, yeah, but like if I knew I was going to get in a fight, no, we don't know we're getting in a fight yet, right? We have no fucking clue. You have to use that fantasy for me, right? He's like, okay, right? And I start getting through to him, and I just have to you just have to sometimes guide them through what you want them to do so that you can help them get better as a student. But like if you just dismiss that person, you're like, fucking problem, whatever, dude, go fuck yourself or whatever, go kick rocks. What you do is you just missed out on an opportunity as a teacher to try and get through to somebody, but you also miss out on an opportunity to make somebody better. Because now he's like, oh, he fucking hates me. And then all of a sudden he goes and does that shit in real life, gets himself killed or somebody else killed. Like that's on you, man, as a teacher, right? Because everything you teach can get somebody killed or save somebody's life. So it's like, no, I need to teach the right stuff. And if I have to like back up and go back and be like, oh shit. Like for example, 3 years ago or so, I changed the way that I taught cover, right? The way that I teach cover on the range. I used to do it just like everybody else has done it, and I switched the way I did it because I was seeing a detriment in students that did it that way when we started putting force on force into it, right? So, for example, like everybody here has probably done it where you've got your barrels in front of you on the range because that's what's always available, and you lean out, and you shoot the target, and you lean back in. You lean out, you shoot the target, you come back in. Well, what I saw in the majority of force on force or even CQB classes when it's just paper is dudes pieing, they see the target, they shoot it, they lean back in. And you're like, why'd you lean back in? Like, you just shot it. I want to see what happens. Like, do I need to give it more? Do I need to give it commands? Do I need to fucking, keep pieing? Like, I see brain matter. Like, what is it? Like, what's happening? And you don't have that because you just lost that real estate by leaning back in just like you do on the range. But that's flat range shenanigans, right? Mm-hmm. So I started changing it where I place cones at about 45 degrees and 45 degrees, and I teach them how to pie, and they pie from cone to cone, and whatever's in between, they work, and they continue working. They don't lose it, right? You continue working through it. So it's not a doorway, and it's not CQB that I'm teaching on the range, but it's the skill of doing so, and it's the skill of using some form of cover when I don't know what's on the other side, and doing it the right way, and hopefully giving people a better habit than to just pop out, pop in, pop out, pop, and which could be detrimental. Yeah. And so I've seen it multiple times in force on force classes where dudes like see a guy, they shoot at him, and they pop back in. You're like, bro, you would have had the upper hand if you would have kept working him, right? But instead, you left him, and now he has the upper hand, right? You just gave him the fucking,
get shot in the face.
You fought for the real estate, then you gave the real estate back.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know about you, but you look at any wars, like the guys with more real estate usually win things. So it was interesting, and once I identified that, like I had to make a video and throw it up on my alumni page because whatever amount of students that are on there that had taken that class prior and done cover the old way, or I would say the non-realistic way. So really just changing it. I filmed the video for them from different angles so they could see it, and literally went through the whole course of instruction for everybody that was on that Facebook page, on my alumni page, just to update everybody on what I was doing now, because I felt bad. I was like, fuck, like I'm doing a disservice. I must correct this. So instead of just hiding and like being like, I didn't do that, and just hiding behind something and just fucking ignoring it, it's like at a certain point, you learn more as a student. Now, when you're a teacher, you have the almost obligation to improve your students, right? Constantly. So that's the way I look at it. And I mean, that's what I do personally. But as a teacher, that's how I take it, right? If something has to change, or it's like, fuck, now I'm identifying this problem, I can fix that. So why not use like all the social media shenanigans that we all have to help dudes learn more again, and then also just update them. Because the amount of dudes that were super grateful, they're like, wow, Jon, I didn't even think of that, or holy shit, like I've been doing it wrong too, or oh my God, thanks, or whatever that was coming through there, that made me happy. Right, like that makes me feel like, okay, these guys they care about their training to the point that they just learned another new thing, hopefully, and aren't doing any bad habits now, or hopefully getting out of the bad habit of it. So just something to think about. But that's really like a good example of like just taking ego, right? And like Chuck likes to say, ego is not your amigo, right? and just throwing it to fuck aside and fuck that dude. The ego doesn't help you with anything, in my opinion. So like, fuck that dude, and I'm gonna set it aside and let people know, like, hey, I messed up. Like, we all make mistakes. Everybody here has made a mistake. It's all good, and we could fix those kind of things. So that's how I see it.
That's something that we're trying to instill in our young kids at home now, is like, hey, we sit down at dinner. How was your day? What are you grateful for? What mistakes did you make? Mm-hmm. And like, instead of you have to be perfect, you have to be perfect, you have to no mistakes. It's like, this is what I did. What did you do? Well, I fucked up and I ordered $30,000 worth of the wrong parts. And then you're like, well, that zero really matters. Yeah. But own it. Yeah. Own it.
It's okay.
In whatever you're doing. That way, hey, if I'm going to do this is, it's okay to mess up. Mm-hmm. And we know we ordered $30,000 worth of the wrong parts, but you own it.
What can you do with those parts, though?
Yeah.
Right?
We've got them. So, we've got them.
But that also goes to like one of the videos I put out on YouTube months and months ago. But it's my mindset when it comes to like anything, right? Like people think of like winning or losing, or like the right and the wrong, and like I did the right thing or I did the wrong thing, like all that shit. But like sometimes like, hey, you win or lose, or you pass and fail. But instead of looking at it that way, I like to think of it as win and learn, pass and learn. Like failure is just a really good teacher that people don't pay attention to. Yeah. Right. And we don't pay attention to it because it doesn't make us feel good. And if you learn to just examine it, digest it, and dissect it a little bit so that you can learn from it, it becomes one of those things that you're like, oh, like that's how I could have done that better right there. A good example, I was in a precision rifle course with Modern Day Sniper in January, and it was cold as shit. And like, I'm a tropical man. And so like I'm wearing sandals right now. Like, I'm a tropical man, and I'm not used to being in the cold. And then also precision rifle is a new thing, right? Like I've only been doing it for a couple years. And in the morning on it was like day 2 or something, we're shooting a troop line, right? So it's like 600, 750, 8 something, whatever, 9 something, out to like 1,000 or 11 something. And just going down the line of these targets. And we all know the dope for all of them because we just did it the previous day. But I go through it and I'm missing like a weirdo, right? And I only get 2 shots per. So that's the limit for all these targets. And so I'm missing two, get to the last few, and I get the like 1,100 one. And I'm like, what the fuck was I doing? And like just sitting there like, man, did I dial something incorrectly, or like what happened? Fucking my rifle was just canted like this, like just a tad, and it was enough to throw me off, including the wind, that I was just like, I couldn't figure out what the hell was going on. And one of the other students, who I found out was like a really accomplished shooter, by the way, so it was really nice of him. But he came up and he was like, hey man, so like I was watching your bubble level and it was completely off. Like I was like, that would have been sweet if you told me after the first shot, but like I get it, like people don't want to like interrupt other peeps while they shoot, especially when they're shooting in front of the whole class. And I was like, you know what, like thank you, Like, I appreciate that. Like, that's a great learning moment. Now that's something I fucking pay attention to almost every time I get into a prone position or any position really. And even with my carbine now, like, I try to like really make sure that I'm up and down with what I'm doing, and not candid, because it'll cause those misses that you're like, what is going on? I felt like I was a great shot. It broke really nice. And I know my crosshairs were where they were, and the wing call was from the instructor. So I'm like, I trust him enough to give me a good wing call. So it was interesting. It was very interesting to see, like, just that small little thing that I had not learned the consequences of. But instead of being like, getting up and being like, fuck this shit, or being upset with myself and then ruining the rest of the fucking day of training, I was like, oh, all right. Got to put that in the noggin.
I'm going to file that one away.
Yeah, like it was like one of those little things, like I have a little dope card that hangs off my scope. I was like, level, right? And wrote it on there because I wanted to make sure I introduced that to my brain deliberately every single time. So now it's part of my habit. So you learn something everywhere, man. And I think for some people, like, that little failure could be detrimental to their entire day because they get too emotional.
Yeah, they're fucking done with it.
Yeah, and they fucking
gets in their head and they're just not able to absorb anything else.
They may boomerang the rifle. Who knows? Yeah. Right? Like, later, fool. I'm going home, kick my dog, punch my wife. You know, like who knows? Like, people get upset so quickly, and it's like, just digest it for a sec. See what really, like, it's just a learning situation. Like, I wasn't there for all the other students. I was there for me. Right? Like, as a student, I literally paid for me. I didn't pay for everybody else to be here. Yeah. So, like, I'm going to get every little ounce that I can out of a class. So for me personally, that's how I look at it. When I'm a student, I'm a student, right? And I'm trying to digest everything, learn, and have failures so that I can learn from that. And like, it's like no fail. No fail should be called will fail, right? Like, you will fail in that class. And that's why I like Chuck's class so much. It was hard, man. It is not an easy class, and I had a blast failing the entire time. Yeah. Like, yeah. It's such a good learner, opens your mind to a lot of things. I know you've taken it.
I have not. I'm hopefully going to sit on it tomorrow. I got to talk with Chuck and see if he's got room.
Yeah. Tis a great class.
Yeah.
We'll have him back. I mean, it's just a matter of time till we get into it.
We're booking him for 2023.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I know Josh and I on the way home last night basically had like an AAR just like talking about the class and like our setups and like, hey, I didn't like the way my rifle mag sat on my belt, and I was like, my reloads didn't feel natural. Like, I want to move some stuff, and that's literally from here to Whataburger, sitting in the Whataburger drive-through line for 45 minutes. Oh, that's a whole debacle. It was fucked.
They were bad 2 nights ago,
dude.
Too.
I was ready to yeet the fucking Whataburger. But so I mean, that's literally what we talked about the entire hour in the car together last night after class. Was just like, hey, how can we improve our setup? Because when you're doing it in the night, doing it in the day is one thing, but then you take away the fucking light and you're like, oh, I can't see.
Oh no.
Yeah. My eyeballs. And it was like, okay, yeah, that's a good idea. Like, I'm gonna test that, see how it works, and fucking change it or move it again. So
no, exactly.
And I think the first time, and you talking about, is Misha fixing to eat somebody?
No, she's having separation anxiety right now.
Yeah.
Where's Dad?
Oh yeah, too.
She did it at 2 a.m. last night too. Super sweet.
Yeah, super. She's sweet.
Well, it sucks for everybody trying to sleep. I was up.
So first time I met you out here, Symposium, probably the second one they had out here. I sat down and talked to you, and
that's the year that you won, right? The competition.
I've won every year except for this one, and but I haven't been able to have prizes for this last year and this year, which they skipped my name on that stage that I had a good score on too.
Yeah.
What a bunch of D-bags.
I know. Andrew didn't give me any prizes.
But
we're no longer friends.
I'm gonna steal his light though.
But that's what stood out with when I talked to you that year was you're like, oh, I'm John. This is what I do, and I'm like, all right, what classes are you teaching? You're like, oh, I'm not. I'm out here. I'm taking classes. I'm taking every class I can. I'm actually not going to sleep for 3 days. I'm taking all the classes.
Pretty much.
I was like, okay then, excellent. And so that's really cool that you're still actively promoting that and doing that and learning that.
Oh yeah.
On a daily basis.
Like I take 12 to 18 classes a year, and like I find that being a student helps you be a teacher really well. But I think a lot of teachers are scared of being students with other students because they don't want to like be perceived as like, oh my God, I don't know this. No, dude. Students love being fucking students with you. They love it. They're like, oh, what are you doing here? I'm like, learning, fool. Yeah, like why not? Well, the fun part is in my classes, I shoot with all my students anyways. So I'm shooting with them. They get to see my target. They get to see whatever everything that's happening. And in my opinion, like that's one. It's genuine, right? Like as a teacher, like you should be. Like you should show them mistakes. Like when I made boo-boos, you guys saw them, and like it's like cool. Like that, we human, girl, right? Like, but do you know why it happened, or do you not know? And could you surmise what happened, right? Based off your knowledge of diagnostics and stuff like that. Like a lot of good stuff, but as a student, I learn from other teachers certain ways to teach things, or like, oh, I like the way he explains that, or like, that's a terrible way of explaining that, and maybe help him, you know, if they're willing to. Like some teachers, when I'm in class, are like, hey, Duffy, what'd you think? And like, because I'll take a more critical approach to it. And a lot of times, like, even though I give them like, this could have been way fucking better, dude, by doing this, as long as they take it like as, you know, like good criticism and like hopefully develop themselves better, like there's nothing wrong with that. Some guys get upset, I'm sure, but it's like, bro, you asked me. I wasn't going to blatantly tell you, but like I didn't like it, right? So yeah, recently, like TNVC's classes, right? TNVC had me out for one of their classes, and I had a lot to say about it. And what was really cool though is like they were like, all right. And they redid their entire course load that they offer from the 101 class all the way to like what I think they call it Armed Professional now or something else. I think they changed the name too, but they've changed the curriculum and made it better because of my notes and me sitting down like this with them at dinner and being like, well, according to my notes, right? This was fucking dumb. This could have been better, right? This could have been more improved. You guys could have explained this. I had like 6 students after class ask me about all these things that you guys could have gone over. And they only asked me because they knew who the fuck I was to an extent. And like, which that was another one where I was sitting at the table and this dude looks over and he's like, are you Duffy? I'm like, yeah, man, that's what it says on my mags. and he's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, learning. Like, what are you doing here? Learning. Yeah, same. There we go. Like, we're here for the same thing, buddy. You know, but it was cool. Like, you know, Bill Pete took it really well, and they did a good job. Right? Like, I'm excited to see what the new curriculum looks like now, and hopefully I'll get into that sometime early next year. But I like helping my friends, right? Like, I've been one of those dudes that I don't like it, like those peeps that are like, no, I'm like, this is my territory, you know, one of those guys. I'm not one of those dudes. I like to share, and I like to think of it as like a rising tide raises all boats. Mm-hmm. So like, why would I want to like succeed and not have like all the good dudes come with me and succeed also? So if I could help them in any way, I try to. You know, it's what I try to do with a lot of dudes. So at least the dudes that are willing, right? Because there's some instructors that are like, no, we don't do that. Okay,
oh, yeah.
But it's cool to see. Like, there's a lot of dudes out there that are willing to take advice from somebody else and like enjoy it, or let me teach portions of the class because they're like, Duffy knows more than this, like, and utilize me in a class. That's okay. I know I paid for it, but it's like. But I enjoy teaching enough to stand up in front of a class and teach a portion of class, even though I'm paying to be there as a student. Because that's how much I like teaching. It just happens. Like, there's a box behind Ike on that mantle of me teaching a class on lasers the other night to like 3 dudes that were over here on the couches. Yeah, because like I couldn't help myself. I was like, that's dumb. No. This is how this works. You know, and like try to help people out, man. It's why give out bad knowledge, and why like, what is it called? Gatekeeping?
Yeah.
Why gatekeep that shit? I ain't got no gates. I live in ungated community. So.
I had a conversation this morning, you know, and that it kind of overlaps into the territory, right? I mean, we're out here at Symposium. Last weekend, they had 1,000.
I think it was
1,200.
Yeah, that's the number I heard.
AK owners out here, right? If you took 1,200 AR owners, it would just be a giant shit fest of people throwing stuff at each other, saying my setup's better than your setup.
Yeah.
You know, like honestly,
it would be a giant dick measuring contest around the place.
But
it's like the first day here, everybody's mean mugging everyone. Yeah, that's okay. Like you just blow kisses at them like I do at SHOT Show. Yeah.
It'd be a lot better if we just got along.
Yeah.
And didn't gatekeep on stuff.
Friends?
What did Will Ferrell say in Tropic, or not Tropic Thunder? Everybody love everybody. What was it? It's the, I don't know. It's the basketball movie.
Oh, yeah.
With Woody Harrelson.
Yeah.
Dude, that's what is that movie?
Semi-pro.
Yeah, dude, that's a solid movie.
Everybody just get along with everybody.
Everybody love everybody.
It's just,
That's what we tell the kids.
I sent Michaela some pictures I took of her last night because that was her first class. And she said it was hard, and I said, hey, good job last night. And she goes, she just said, thank you. It was definitely hard. Talk about information overload, but it was a blast.
fantastic.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Poor girl.
Yeah.
Her brain was probably fried.
She had to drive home after, so.
Yeah, I saw.
Like a hour and a half drive home after information dump.
Yeah, no, I'd sleep in the car. I'm good.
She had to work this morning.
Well,
Somebody has to work this morning.
somebody has
Who's
to do
making
it.
her do that?
Who's that guy?
He threw her into a low-light class that takes her until 1 a.m.
Sorry, Michaela.
Good management right there, bud.
Yeah, fantastic.
Hey.
But she made it. She made it live, so we're good. That's fantastic.
Now she can
Or
school.
that's her kidnapper right now.
It was super fun. But
Had a
hey,
blast.
now she can school everybody at the range on low light.
Hopefully.
I mean, after a good class, it takes days or weeks, if not more, to digest information and apply that information. And I've been in classes where you go through and you're like, okay, I got one
Nugget
out of it. All right, am I going to do that again? No. Or I didn't get what I wanted out of that class, so I need to go find another class to find out what I need to do.
Well, I'll tell you what, like this is something cool that I discovered recently, right? At least in the last 4 years or so. And it's that I've taken almost the same class 3 or 4 times now, right? And it took until the 3rd or 4th time where I actually was ready to hear a certain portion of that class. So, for example, my precision rifle learning again, because it's like something I'm in the process of learning, so it's really fun for me. And it's not my forte. It's not night vision stuff. It's not, carbine shooting. It's not fucking handgun stuff. So it's super new, and it's a different discipline. And what I found is the first class, they taught wind, right? They taught how to deal with wind, how it works, what you can be doing, and things like that, and how to best guess the wind, right? Because that's really what you're doing. Then the second class, they obviously taught it again because it was a second version of that. And then the third time I heard it was in another class that they also taught. But that is when it stuck. And I was like, son of a bitch. Why didn't you guys tell me that in the first 2 classes? But I look back at my notes for those 2 other classes, and it's there. It's there. But I, as a student, right, didn't have the capacity or wasn't ready to hear it and digest it at the same time. Because I was already overloaded with all the other shit that was going on, right? Like the fundamentals of my positioning or fucking, whatever it was, went to tripod stuff or whatever. And then now, 3rd class in, I got wind now. All right. So sometimes, man, as much as that sounds like weird taking the same fucking class over and over, but you may not be ready to hear that information yet or portions of the information. And then on the second time, you're like, oh, yeah, okay, clickies are happening. Right? Edison is coming back into my brain. Right? And then the third time, you're like, oh, I understand it. Right? And you're starting to digest this information easier because now you've put into practice, hopefully, the things you learn. And then now you're ready because you've subconsciously put a lot of things into your abilities now, right? So where you were thinking about, let's say, 90% of the information, trying to establish it and use it at the same time, now you're thinking about only 40% of the information, and the other 50 is now subconscious, right? And then when you get to this 3rd class and it's like, all right, I'm at 10% of my capacity of actually applying things because 80% of that shit is already stowed, right? I've got that in my back pocket, pretty easy. I don't have to worry about it, right? But there's 10% I still have to carry in my hands. You know what I mean? And right there, like you'll gain more and more that you could stow away versus having to carry that shit and be able to apply it without thinking, which is really cool. Or on just more of a subconscious method, just like you did when you were driving. Like when we all first started driving, and you had to think about all the thingies to driving, right? Like literally everything. Fucking how much gas, fucking turnsies. When do I do the blinker? Is it down to go left or is it down to go right? and then sorry, and then from there, it's like over time though. I get into a different car every 3 to 4 days, and like just fix my seat, fix the mirrors, and just go, and I'm fine, and I could drive subconsciously while I'm eating on the phone, and maybe even texting somebody while I'm talking to somebody else on the phone, right? Like I'm doing a ton of different things versus just driving, which 15-year-old John could not fucking do. Like no way. I couldn't even have the radio on at the time. Like
you have to turn the radio down so you can, see better.
See better, yeah. Like, but at the time, man, I couldn't have the radio on because I had to use all my brain power. And it's not because I was dumb. I was probably dumber, but I wasn't fully dumber, right? I was just encapsulated with carrying 100% of driving in my hands. Now driving is like I'm maybe holding a little bit with my pinky, and like the rest of it is like I'm on the phone eating, blah, 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 blah.
It's like when you drive home and then you get home and you don't realize, you're like, how the fuck did I get home?
Yeah.
And you're like, what?
Autopilot.
Yeah. You're like, when did I drive?
But that and then just like knowing like after a while, like how fast can I take a certain curve?
Yeah.
Right. Or like
where's all the cops hiding?
Yeah, or even just in your neighborhood, right? Like all of you guys know that there's a specific like thingamabobby that's in your way sometimes. Like in the neighborhood, like oh, there's that little fucking pothole, and I don't like going over it, so I go around it real quick. But I know where it is, and because I've been driving there for so long, it's like I do it without thinking about that stupid pothole. Especially after the first 15 times of going and like hitting that thing, and you're like, I gotta miss that next time.
I don't like this.
That didn't feel good, and I may have to deal with that with the car later. So, but you learn from those, and you start to apply those experiences, and then, like I said, like eventually you're at the point where you don't have to think about it anymore. No more wasted brain power. So in classes, it's the same exact thing as driving like that, right? We have some people are fully in, like Kayla, completely in the class, 100% has to be. Right, everything was hard at the moment, right? Where there were some guys in the class where they were like 40%. They just had to apply the new stuff, but they already had a good established baseline, right? So it's really cool how that works, and you can see it in each student as they shoot. And there's some individual stuff that we do so that I can literally identify like how people are shooting, and that's important to me, right, as a teacher, to be able to like guide people differently. Who needs a little bit more attention? Who needs a little bit more like observation? Who needs a little bit more encouragement? Like whatever it is, because that's what I'm there for, is to facilitate them learning, not facilitate them thinking that I'm awesome or some shit like that. So that's on their end. They can figure that shit out.
But you are awesome.
Only if you think so.
That's true.
But I want you guys learning. Right, learning and having fun. That's all I give a shit about.
So we've asked 2 questions, and we're at 55 minutes in.
All right, well, see you later.
You're welcome. Now in episode 2, we'll continue with what happens when we do more stuff.
More stuff. More stuff faster and in the dark.
Yeah, hell yeah, darkness. Yeah, daytime stuff is weird.
So
I do have to pee. Can we take a pee break?
Yeah, we can take a pee break.
Okay.
Yeah. I could do a pee.
All right, let's go pee.
All right. And if you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, and everything, we'll air the second part of this episode here in a couple of weeks. We'll drop part 2 with Jon. And I keep on ignoring your last name. How do you say your last name?
Dufresne.
Dufresne. Duffy, Mocha Bear, the friends. Everybody says it different. Mocha Bear. Or
the brown man.
Duffy. But thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. This has been a knowledge bomb if you want to talk about learning and education and self-improvement. And we really appreciate having you on the show today. And we will come in and record the second part of this episode after a potty break. So
cool.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Awesome.